You were always second best, Chloe. You sit there in that cheap dress while your sister was born to rule this family. You are a complete, pathetic failure. My mother, Victoria's sharp, poison-dripping voice, slammed through the wireless microphone, echoing across the white rose arches of the country club garden. Over 100 wedding guests, relatives, high society friends, and local politicians dropped their champagne flutes in absolute shock. I stood in the center aisle in my white gown, my hands trembling as my groom, Mark, suddenly let go of my fingers, taking 2 quick steps backward away from me, as if I carried a contagious disease. I was Captain Chloe Mercer, an active-duty Air Force intelligence officer who had spent 7 years running high-stakes surveillance operations overseas. Beside my mother at the altar stood my older sister, Vanessa, wearing a $5,000 silk gown that I had paid for, wearing a smug, malicious smirk that made my blood run cold. "Mom, please," I whispered, the microphone picking up my shaky, desperate breath. "This is my wedding day. Why are you doing this?" "Because everyone needs to know the truth before Mark ruins his life," Victoria shouted into the speaker, her diamond earrings flashing under the afternoon sun. "You told Mark you were a high-ranking officer. You're nothing but an administrative clerk who makes coffee for real commanders. You didn't even pay for this venue. Your sister raised $40,000 from her charity to save your pathetic wedding." Vanessa stepped up to the microphone, squeezing my mother's arm while looking down at me with fake, pitying eyes. "It's okay, Mom," Vanessa sighed into the sound system. "Chloe has always been jealous of my success. I don't mind paying for her venue. We can't all be talented." A wave of cruel, disgusted whispering swept through the rows of guests. Mark looked at me with cold, furious eyes, pulling his silk boutonniere off his jacket and throwing it onto the grass. "Is this true, Chloe? You lied to me about your career? Your sister is paying for our entire reception?" "Mark, no, she's lying," I cried out, stepping towards him, but he held up his hand, backing away. Before I could even explain, my phone vibrated furiously against my thigh inside my dress pocket. I pulled it out with cold, numb fingers. It was an instant notification from my bank. Subject line: account frozen, unauthorized overdraft. My heart hammered against my ribs. My mother and sister had used my stored military power of attorney, the one I gave them for emergencies while deployed, to drain my $70,000 savings account to zero, labeling the transfer as a family gift. "Look at her," Victoria cackled into the microphone, pointing at my pale face. "Checking her bank account because she knows she's broke. Security, escort this lying clerk off the property. The party is over." I stood completely alone in the middle of the aisle, watching my fiancé walk up the altar steps to comfort my sister, while 2 large security guards marched towards me. Grief and public humiliation choked my throat like acid. I turned on my heel, grabbed the heavy skirts of my wedding dress, and ran into the parking lot under a barrage of mocking laughter. I collapsed against the side of my car in the empty lot, tears burning my cheeks as the cold realization hit me. For 7 years, I had secretly sent $3,000 every month from my combat deployment pay to pay off my mother's mountain of credit card debt. I had secretly funded Vanessa's luxury boutique business when it was failing, transferring money under an anonymous company name so I wouldn't hurt her pride. They thought their lavish lifestyle was built on Vanessa's genius, completely unaware that every single dollar came from my sweat and blood in the military. Buzz. Buzz. My phone lit up again. It was a mass group text sent to all 95 wedding guests and my entire extended family from my mother's phone. It contained a photo of me crying in the parking lot with the text, "Chloe's wedding canceled due to her fraud. She tried to steal Vanessa's money to pay for her dress, a total disgrace to the Mercer family." The grief inside my chest suddenly snapped. The hot tears stopped. A wave of icy military focus washed over my body, hardening my pulse into steel. I didn't cry anymore. I wiped my face with the sleeve of my dress, pulled out my encrypted military intelligence tablet from my car's glove compartment, and logged into my secured defense intelligence dashboard. I tapped 3 buttons. I revoked my mother's power of attorney, flagged the $70,000 unauthorized transfer as felony grand larceny with my bank's fraud division, and initiated an immediate freeze on the corporate credit cards I had issued to Vanessa's boutique. As I closed the laptop, I noticed something strange in my rearview mirror. A sleek black SUV with tinted windows and official government plates was parked 30 yards away in the shade of the trees. A tall figure in a dark shadow was watching me through binoculars. My intelligence training instantly kicked in. Who was tracking me, and why were they watching my disaster of a wedding? I didn't care. I had a mission to finish. I smoothed down my white dress, threw my veil into the back seat, locked my car, and marched straight back toward the country club ballroom. When I slammed the double oak doors open, the entire reception hall went dead silent. My mother, sister, and my ex-fiancé Mark were standing near the 3-tiered wedding cake, holding glasses of expensive champagne, laughing with local news reporters and city council members. Vanessa was wearing my flower crown. "You again!" Victoria shrieked, dropping her glass as it shattered across the hardwood floor. "How dare you show your pathetic face back in here? You've been disowned." "Chloe, leave right now," Mark barked, stepping in front of Vanessa like a protective knight. "You're embarrassing yourself. Vanessa is 10 times the woman you'll ever be." Vanessa smirked, taking a slow sip of wine. "Just go home, Chloe. Nobody here respects you. You're second best, and you'll always be." Before the security guards could reach me, the heavy glass doors on the far side of the ballroom exploded open. 6 active-duty Air Force Security Forces officers in full dress uniforms, carrying tactical gear, strode into the room, their polished combat boots echoing like thunderclaps against the high ceilings. Behind them walked a tall, distinguished man with silver hair, wearing an Air Force dress uniform covered in rows of brilliant medals and 4 gleaming silver stars on his shoulders. The entire room gasped in absolute horror. Local politicians instantly dropped their food, freezing in place. It was 4-star General Richard Vance, the commander of Air Force Global Strike Command, one of the most powerful military figures in the entire United States Armed Forces. Victoria instantly adjusted her dress, putting on a fake, flattering smile as she rushed toward the general. "General Vance, what an incredible honor. Did you hear about my daughter's Vanessa's charity work? Are you here to give her an award?" General Vance didn't even look at her. He walked straight past my mother, straight past Vanessa, and stopped directly in front of me. He snapped his boots together, brought his right hand up, and gave me the sharpest, most respectful salute I had ever seen in my life. "Captain Chloe Mercer," General Vance's authoritative voice boomed across the silent room. "On behalf of the Department of Defense and the President of the United States, I apologize for the delay. Your classified Distinguished Service Cross citation has officially been cleared for public release." The room went so quiet you could hear a pin drop on the carpet. Mark's mouth fell wide open. My mother's eyes bulged out of her head in utter shock. "Captain? Distinguished Service Cross?" Mark stuttered, his face turning pale green. "What is the meaning of this?" Victoria screeched, stepping between us. "She's a clerk. She sits at a desk. My daughter Vanessa is the one who supports the military." General Vance turned his cold, steel-gray eyes onto my mother, his voice dropping like a heavy iron hammer. "Ma'am, keep your mouth shut," the general commanded, softly, making my mother instantly flinch backward. The general turned to his aide, who tapped a button on a military laptop. The ballroom's massive presentation screens automatically lit up, overriding the venue's system.
Side-by-side legal documents, official military combat video logs, and bank statements filled the giant screens. For 7 years, General Vance announced into the silence, Captain Chloe Mercer served as the chief operations strategist for elite drone intelligence overseas. She personally saved 62 American soldiers during a night ambush in Syria, earning the second highest military honor in this nation. The guests gasped in disbelief. And while Captain Mercer was risking her life overseas, General Vance continued, pointing a gloved finger at the screens, her mother, Victoria Mercer, and sister, Vanessa Mercer, were systematically stealing her military combat pay. The screen shifted, showing a bright red financial ledger.
$210,000 of Captain Mercer's combat pay was transferred over 7 years directly into Vanessa Mercer's boutique bank accounts, the general revealed, as the entire crowd read the bank account numbers out loud. The $40,000 venue fee for this wedding was not paid by Vanessa's charity. It was automatically drawn from Captain Mercer's frozen savings account 2 hours ago through forged power of attorney's signatures. "No, that's a lie! Turn it off!" Vanessa screamed, her face contorting into an ugly, frantic mask as she tried to block the screen with her hands. "Is this lying, Vanessa?" I spoke up, stepping forward, my voice ringing with cold, absolute authority. I tapped my tablet screen, playing an audio file recorded through my boutique's corporate security system 3 days ago. Vanessa's recorded voice. "Don't worry about the boutique debt, Mom. Once Chloe gets married, I'll use her military pension account to pay off the land lease. She's too stupid to ever check the back statements." Victoria's recorded voice. "Just make sure Mark thinks you paid for the wedding. We need him to marry into our family, not her." The recorded voices faded into a terrifying silence. The crowd of guests exploded into absolute outrage. Local politicians backed away from my family as if they were covered in poison. Guests began shouting insults, pointing their phones directly at Vanessa and my mother, recording every second of their public humiliation. Mark stood frozen, looking at Vanessa with complete and utter disgust, realizing he had dumped a decorated national hero for a fraudulent, bankrupt criminal. "Chloe, baby," Mark stammered, taking a desperate step toward me, his hands shaking. I didn't know. They lied to me. Please, let's finish the wedding." I looked Mark dead in the eye, took my diamond engagement ring off my finger, and dropped it into his half-empty champagne glass with a cold clink. "You proved who you were the second things got tough," I said, my voice cutting through him like ice. "You don't deserve a soldier. You deserve them." At that exact moment, 4 armed federal marshals and 2 special agents from the Department of Defense Criminal Investigative Service walked through the front doors. "Victoria Mercer, Vanessa Mercer," the lead agent announced, holding up 2 red federal warrants. "You are under arrest for grand larceny, federal wire fraud, stolen valor exploitation, and identity theft." "No, get away from me!" Vanessa shrieked, kicking and crying hysterically as a female marshal pulled her arms behind her back, locking heavy steel handcuffs over her wrists. Her $5,000 silk dress tore down the side as she struggled, looking pathetic, ruined, and completely broken. My mother tried to run toward the back door, but 2 marshals blocked her path, snapping handcuffs onto her wrists as she screamed curses, her expensive hair falling into her face, her elite social standing destroyed in front of every reporter in the city. "Cherry, help us! We're your family!" Victoria sobbed, her voice cracking as she was dragged past the rows of glaring guests. "You can't do this to your own mother!" I stood straight, my shoulders square, my chin held high, looking at my mother with quiet, unshakable dignity. "You said I was always second best, Mom, but today, justice came first." As the police cars pulled away into the evening light, sirens flashing, the entire room of guests broke into a thunderous standing ovation, honoring my service and my victory.
General Vance walked up to me, smiling proudly, as he handed me my official medals. "Ready to come back to work, Captain?" I took a deep breath of the clean night air, feeling the heavy burden of a toxic family lift off my chest forever. "Yes, General," I smiled. "I'm ready." You cannot heal a toxic family with your own sacrifices. For 7 years, I believed that if I gave enough money, suffered enough silence, and bore enough pain, my mother and sister would finally love me and treat me as an equal. I let them belittle my life because I thought keeping the peace was my duty. But toxic, narcissistic people do not appreciate your kindness. They see your kindness as a target and your humility as a weakness to exploit. They will gladly drain your bank account, destroy your reputation, and sabotage your happiness just to keep themselves on a pedestal. Real self-worth doesn't come from begging toxic relatives for approval. It comes from knowing who you are, standing firm in your truth, and having the courage to let bad people face the natural, unyielding consequences of their own choices. Never set yourself on fire to keep ungrateful people warm.